Greetings and salutations. It's Robert here, your fearless leader for Letters Against Depression. And what I want to do is bring us all together today to talk about the 2020 year in review. Let's look back, see what's worked, what's gone great, and what was amazing about 2020 for Letters Against Depression. And then move and pivot forward to looking forward to 2021 and the amazing things that we're going to bring forth with that. So let's delve right into the numbers. Let's look at, I'm a numbers person. I love to see numbers. Let's see what kind of impact that we've had throughout the year. First thing, we've had 333 new recipients signed up for LAD from January 1st through December 31st of 2020. This is amazing. This is almost one per day that we've been able to reach. And a lot of that came from the last 5 months. So when we look forward to 2021, that number is going to be even larger, which is amazing to see. We definitely want to connect with people, as many people as we can that need letters, and get them out. That brings us to 1,679 total active recipients that we have right now. These are the number of people that are in the portal that we're able to write to and rotate through. 2,205. This is the number of total recipients we've had since 2016. These are everyone that signed up. Some people have discontinued getting letters. Some have been inactive or we haven't been able to reach them because of address changes, but 2,205. So we did break that 2,200 milestone earlier this month or last month. We've had 392 profile updates. These are recipients that have gone online to the updates tab and filled out the form to update us on their journey. How are they doing? It helps us create those letters that are more personal in nature because they're timely. They're talking about things that are occurring now, not things that maybe they were feeling 3, 4, or 5 years ago. 1,958 new volunteers signed up with us in the portal for this past year. That is a staggering number. We're looking at, what is that, like 5, 6 a day, which is great growth because we are getting more volunteers coming on board than we have recipients. So we're able to keep up with the demand of writing letters when we have more people signing up to write than tend to receive. Now, of that 1,958, we've had 535 of those new volunteers sent at least one letter. They've claimed, we've received it, and it was mailed out. So about 1 in 4, about 25% have actually sent their first letter. Now, a lot of these new volunteers were in the last few months, and with the holidays, they may be writing in the future, just haven't completed that at this time. 672, that's the unique number of volunteers that sent in a letter. 672 amazing volunteers sent in a letter this year, which is a staggering number. And we have a total of 3,416 volunteers that have signed up in the portal since we launched it. Obviously, not everyone's active. Not everyone has sent a letter, but that is a great number that we're getting the engagement and people that we need to join to be able to fulfill these letters that go out. 22.5, that's the average number of pieces of mail that we've sent out here per day. So each day on average, when I go to the post office to drop off mail, it's 22 and a half letters we're sending out. 4.9, that's the average number of pieces of mail per recipient. So if you look at everyone in a typical year gets a birthday card and a holiday card. So we're looking at about 3 letters per average per recipient this past year, that's amazing. Last year we were averaging just over 3. So pretty much when you factor in holiday card, birthday card, they were also getting 1 letter throughout the year. And that was just a numbers game of, when we have the number of volunteers that we had and the number of recipients were almost 1 for 1, it was working out almost to sending 1 letter per year. Now they're getting 3, and a lot of that growth came from the last 5 months. So we're really looking at probably in the next year, as we're going through 2021, we're going to see this number raise, and it could actually be double digits when all is said and done. 2,889. This is the number of holiday cards that we sent out during the Christmas period or holiday period this year. Big thanks to Kimberly and Kim, who were instrumental in us getting this out. Usually we have in-person volunteer events here locally where Disney volunteers or other volunteers come and join us and help us filling out the cards, addressing the cards, stamping them and getting them out. And this year with COVID, we couldn't do in person. So we had to rely on just a couple volunteers that were willing to create and make cards that we were able to send out as part of that. Next, we have 1,924 birthday cards were sent out this year. Um, you may be looking at that number and seeing that it is more than our total active recipients. Some were inactivated throughout the year, but then also we opened up during the later part of the year, mainly allowing people to send in birthday cards for people that they wrote to as well. So that contributed a little bit to the increase in the number. 3,401 letters sent. These are actual handwritten letters that were mailed out for a total of 8,214 total pieces of mail sent out this year. 6,005 of those were domestic, so sent here in the United States, and 2,209 of them were sent out internationally. So when we look at the cost for stamps for that, $3,300 or so was to send the U.S. letters, and about $2,760 were to send international. Which brings us to 74 cents. That is our cost per mail just for stamps, our postage expense basically for 2020. So this will help us as we move forward and we talk about impact. When you make a donation to Letters Against Depression, what is the impact? What does that get people? So in this case, if someone were to donate $75, we can let them know that that would provide a letter, send out a letter for 100 people. And it's that metric that helps them kind of get their head around what good am I doing if I donate $50, $25? What does that impact? What does that mean to you all? And we can start to translate that through these metrics and say, for every 74 cents, less than $1, we're sending out a letter to someone. So your impact is huge when you're talking, you donate $20. How many letters are you sending out for that? Which I think is going to help as we go through with fundraising through this next year. And then finally, we hit a milestone this year, which was 20,000 letters sent this year, which absolutely amazing. We finished the year at 23,407. So what this means is that we're actually probably February or March, we'll be hitting 25,000 letters, another milestone in just a couple months. And it seems just like it was literally just a couple months ago, maybe 3 months that we hit 20,000. So the rate of growth, the amount of letters that we're sending out per month has been amazing. When we started off the year, we were sending like 120, 130, 140 letters per month each month, and it was pretty consistent. Now we're doing 4 or 5 times that every month. We're sending 4 of the last 5 months, we've sent over 400 letters and cards, and each month has been pretty much building off of the last and breaking records and more. So as we see this grow through the next year, we're going to be hitting milestones a lot easier and quicker. So let's look at the top volunteers. These are just letters written. We just pulled the metrics for letters written because birthday cards and other pieces are weird in the way that they're recorded because multiple could be sent in one envelope, or there's just issues with if we're sending them in bulk, things like that. So when we look just at letters written, we have a couple volunteers, Leslie and Bethany, that I cannot thank them enough. They made this year possible by writing over 100 letters each. And they were neck and neck the whole time. This works out to 2 or 3 letters per week. These letters are amazing. When you look at Bethany's, and the pictures that she encloses, and really, you get to know, and we've had so many positive comments about her letters. And Leslie, I can't say enough about how beautiful those are. And just amazing that we have people that are so willing to dedicate and write and help people. In this case, by the dozens, over 100. And then we had Cornell, one of our universities that does an event. They had to stop in March, but from the first 3 months before we really ramped up and got busy, they sent over 100. Aliana, 89. Rachel from Australia with 77. Juliana, 51. Marissa, 47. Sabrina, 41. Ian at 40. Maya, 36. And some of these are newer newer volunteers, so I can't wait to see what this looks like. But thank you to everyone. I mean, even if you sent just one letter or you just sent hugs, it makes a difference. Um, these people here are just ones that, in bulk throughout the year, have really dedicated so much time to helping people. And I can't thank all of you enough, but can't thank these people even more. So newsworthy. We were featured on many different news outlets or media outlets throughout 2020, the biggest being the national news story. So some of you watching this may have heard about us from that news story. But basically here in the United States, we were approached and they wanted to do a news story about letters against depression and talking about us and what we do. And that ran in all media markets in the United States. And it ran over time. So it wasn't like it was all an impact of one day. What we saw was it was in San Antonio one day, Jacksonville another day. It was in Tennessee one day, Vermont. So it bounced around over the course of a month and a half or 2 months or so, which helped bring in so many more recipients and volunteers. And that's just it, is we're finding more and more as the word gets out about LAD and what we do, people are attracted to what we do. They really connect with what we do. We need to do a better job of getting that message out to them. We need to find ways to get them, let them hear about our message and keep them engaged. So that national news story was huge for us. Here locally in Central Florida, we had Central Florida News 13 ran a story which kind of started everything off right as the pandemic was ramping up. I think it was like April. They approached us on wanting to do a story about letters against depression, which was great, and actually kicked off from there. Someone else had seen the news story there and wanted to do it more national. So we also were featured in a newsletter from Pipsticks. Pipsticks is a stamp company here, and they have a very big following. And they went ahead and they talked about ways you could get back, and they talked about letters. And we had a bunch of new recipients and volunteers from it, and they still talk about us. So that's been big to, again, just get that message out to people. Cardinal Health, which is a US-based healthcare system, they it featured us in their inner office newsletter talking about us as a resource. So we've received a lot of requests from them as well as volunteers. And then finally, another newsletter called The Assistant that has driven people to sign up to uh, be writers or to get letters. So community partnerships, one of the things that we've not been able to do this year is really do in-person events. We used to go out to places like, you know, community events that we can engage those in the community to either write letters or give them information about what we do. But with COVID, we didn't have that opportunity this year. Those in-person events all got canceled. So we had to find other ways that we can engage the community. And what we found is that the community had the same issue we had. They couldn't go to in-person events. They couldn't volunteer. They couldn't do things elsewhere. So we found ways to interact and engage with the community around us. So one of the biggest that we were so lucky for this year was Advent Health. And what Advent Health is the one of the larger hospital chains here in the Central Florida area. They are big on volunteering and helping out the community, but they weren't able to anymore. So what we were able to do is link up and say, hey, can we create a program that would be for Advent Health that your employees would be able to write letters, send in donations and all that in order to get their service hours that they would want to get as part of the organization. And it helps us both out. And that has been amazing. We have received dozens, if not hundreds of stamps from Advent Health employees. We've received hundreds of envelopes. We've received hugs, which are knitted crocheted hearts or anything that we can provide in letters as an additional hug. Index card artwork. They've really come through and helped and filled gaps as we needed throughout the year. I don't know if this second half of the year would have been as successful as it was for LAD without their partnership. We really, really needed that at the time, and it worked out perfect. Um, We created the same sort of program with JP Morgan Chase Bank. Again, they weren't able to do their service hours that they normally like to do as a corporation. So we set up for them a way that they could write letters and made it easy and tailored to their group. We've had multiple colleges and high schools and that create writing programs. So Cornell University, we talked about earlier, did their Letters Against Depression group that they had would write weekly letters. Grand Rapids Community College, we partnered with them on a few things, and they were instrumental in the latest T-shirt drive that we had, fundraiser. Cerro Coso Community College, they're writing and getting service hours and sending in letters, as well as Seven Lakes High School. Um, and it's great that we're able to partner with schools, and we want to do that more because a lot of the people that we're writing to, that's their demographic, that's their age group. And when you look at peers being able to support each other, they're able to connect and really deliver messages that sometimes if you're outside of that normal range for that person, you wouldn't be able to get through. They wouldn't have that connection. So schools are huge, and they can use this as on their transcript for service hours for National Junior Honor Society, National Honor Society, applying to colleges, things like that. So it really is a reciprocal relationship that we can have. So we're going to look at, let's get a model together. Let's find a way that we can interact with these students more and give them this opportunity, because I think a lot of them would find that for them, that's probably going to be the best way that they can get back to the community. We also worked with Palm Point Behavioral on a Veterans Day event that was virtual, that we had people uh, selecting stories of our recipients that are veterans here in the United States to write them letters. We worked with CauseCorps, which is a volunteer organization out of the UK, where they would go to cafes throughout Europe, and people would go and write, decorate, and they'd send it in bulk. Drift, which is an email company, worked with them on, they wanted to do an employee way of giving back. Peer Support Space is an amazing organization. I can't talk about them enough here in Central Florida. They offer peer respite services and peer groups, which these are peer-led groups where I think you're able to connect to them more, because these are people that have gone through kind of the same things. They're just like you, and they're leading these groups, and right now they're all virtual. But you're able to find and share space with people that you really can identify and connect with. And before everything happened with the pandemic, we were doing community events with them on a regular basis to offer abilities for people to write letters and connect and kind of help out. And they're an amazing organization. We continue to still strive to do more and more with them. We worked with the One Orlando Alliance. This is the group that was created, the organization that was created after the Pulse tragedy here in Central Florida. So we work with them on hosting an event of some kind on the anniversary or around the anniversary each year, where we can give back. One year we did painting rocks that we could put in a lot of the parks around Central Florida that were in memory of. We've done letters. This year we did letters to the LGBTQ plus community in support and things like that. So they're an amazing partner. And then last, with Rad Remedy, they're an LGBTQ service that helps you find different services that are LGBTQ plus friendly. So whether you're looking in the healthcare field or mental health, therapists, counselors, you're able to find ways and people that you can feel comfortable with going to. And really from the beginning, Rad Remedy approached us and said, we love the way that you structured your program. Things like when a recipient signs up, we ask them for what gender they identify with, and we don't bucket it. You tell us in your own words what that is, as well as the pronouns that you use, so that one, it facilitates that connection where if someone else identifies the same way, that's an instant connection that could be made, that maybe you're going to search for people that you can relate with and that you can give hope and support because you've been through that. You're further along on your journey, and that could be so healing. So honored to be listed as a partner with them and working with them to make sure that we're doing things in the most inclusive way, making sure that, knowing that we have such a diverse um, set of people that we work with. It's truly worldwide. I mean, we probably have the ability to reach more people than almost any other charity in the world because we can send a letter anywhere. So we want to make sure that we keep that in mind as we create our programs. All right, so let's go ahead and let's look at the funds and the financials of 2020. So even in this year that's been heavy growth, especially in the later part of it, we were able to still raise the funds needed to support that growth throughout the year. We had an amazing individual, Brent, who had seen a post that we had that we were off like $314.52 from um, our donations were less than our expenses by that amount. And on New Year's Eve, they donated that amount. So we had this very unique situation where the number of donations we had throughout this year was $9,133.20, and our expenses exactly matched that. From the donation perspective, almost $5,000 comes from individual contributions. These are people that either have set up a Facebook fundraiser that we've gotten money from or have gone through our website and donated there. In our expenses, about $2,200 are fixed expenses. These are the things that aren't going to change, like our website costs and the portal costs and PO box fees. And then almost $7,000 in variable expenses. These are the things that change based on how busy we are. If we only get 100 letters in, then our expenses are only for those 100 letters. But if we get 400 or 500 letters in, then those expenses multiply by 4 or 5. So that was almost $7,000. So our donations matched expenses. Now, this is where it gets tricky going into 2021. So now that we have 2020 in the rearview mirror, let's look forward to 2021. And the biggest issue is going to be, what rate of growth are we going to see? Each month, we keep growing more and more. Is that rate going to keep going? Is it going to get higher as we go through? We're going to talk about the year of LAD and a lot of the improvements we're going to do. Is that going to lead to even more letters and recipients and volunteers? It's going to increase our expenses. So 2021, we're going into with a very weird, let's take a guess and see. But the great thing about Letters Against Depression, we can be fluid. If we're finding that growth is higher, we'll just need to put a little bit more effort into fundraising to cover that, and then we could cover it. We're not limited to that budget like a lot of places are. We can grow more and do more as we go. We'll be fluid with it and just adapt as we go. So with that being said, let's go ahead and look at 2020's expenses versus what we're going to plan for the budget this year. So here we have all of the different types of expense buckets that we have. And we've listed what the actual expense was in 2020, but we've talked about what the proposal is for the budget for 2021. This is just a proposal. We keep playing around with it, trying to figure out what's going to be the best case as we make our guess of what 2021 is going to be like. So a couple of the highlights. Postage expense, we see here that we spent $4,585 this past year. That's a misleading number because truly, when you look at all the stamps that were donated, which has a financial value to us, our actual postage expense was $6,000, but we had about $1,500 in stamps, either in inventory already or from those that had gone ahead and donated to us. And we need to keep that in mind as we're looking at our proposal. So 2021, I am proposing about $10,000 or $10,000 as our budget for stamps. Now, as we get, say, if we get a book of 100 stamps, that's $55 less that we don't need to raise. That's covering, but we're probably looking at about $10,000 in postage expense. And kind of, if you look at 2020, about 4,500, that's about half of the 9,000. So our stamp budget's about half of our actual budget. So our total amount that we're looking to raise for this year, our budget is 20,000. This gives us about that 10,000 amount. Other than that, Some of the big things, office technology expense. We spent about $362 this past year. These are things that we need in order to collaborate and work in this virtual environment where we can meet with you all, have meetings, whether it's Discord, purchasing that, or purchasing a Zoom plan, or needing a webcam, or updating, when the keyboard dies, or things that we need for Lad that from a technology perspective. Greeting card expense, we spent about $250 again. That's misleading because we did a lot of bulk purchasing in 2019. So we didn't have to spend as much in 2020. But as we move forward with this new celebrations program, and for those that don't know, we've replaced the holiday cards where we mail everybody that's active in December with a holiday card. Instead of doing that, we're going to spread it throughout the year and make it more inclusive where you choose and decide what celebration you want to celebrate, and then we'll celebrate it with you. So when you look at the choices that we have available on the website, you have your um, ones that you may recognize, like Christmas and New Year's Day and Easter, um, Thanksgiving in the United States. But then you start getting into other ones that maybe you didn't know about. EID for our Muslim friends, or Imbolc for that's coming up here in February. Um, there's so many holidays. For those that identify as geeks, we have Star Wars Day, which is May the 4th. So as we have these, our greeting card expense is going to go up because we can't just go to the store and buy bulk Star Wars Day cards or in bulk cards. That's just not possible. So the cost per card is probably going to be going up, which is fine. We really want to tailor it. It's going to mean it and it's worth it, but that expense is going to go up. So we've increased that budget this year to 1,500. That may need to change depending on how people reply as they are updating, interacting with us, because um, that's still less than $1 per person when we're talking 1,600 or so active, and whatever we raise that number to throughout the year. Um, we may need to go higher, but for now, I think I can work with that budget and still properly celebrate people and uh, do that. Let's see. Other than that, promotional materials, we've spent almost $250. This is for anything that's, uh, whether it's printing stuff that's for promotional needs, um, advertising, which we don't do really any of. But we're going to be increasing that to $1,000 because we're going to be bringing back volunteer appreciation gifts, which are a monthly rewards program that we can reward certain volunteers for different aspects. And as we move through, that's going to be launching in the second half probably of 2021. So we'll be allocating a budget that we can purchase items of value that we're able to share that people would want to be working towards. Portal expense is going to go down a little bit. That's also misleading because the way that we were paying prior was by month. And then we did switch that to an annual billing so that we can save some money. In doing so, we had last year made some monthly payments, and then we paid the yearly. So it looks a little bit higher, but it's going to be about $600 when all is said and done for this year. We're teetering close to having to upgrade that to the next tier, which is going to be probably double, if not a little bit more than double that cost. We'll have to take a look, and we're going to be looking at the portal as we go through, and we'll talk about the year in LAD. That's probably going to increase, but for now, this year, I think we're going to be able to get by with multiple plans that I have to get through with the 600. And for those that don't know, the portal, what we pay for is the database space. I design and build everything in it. I modify, enhance, change, all of that I maintain. So there's no cost for that. It truly is the number of records and amount of data that we use. So as we've grown, when we look at records, or what is a record, a recipient is a record, a volunteer is a record, and every letter that we send, letter or card, ends up being a record because we track that. We're getting close to maxing out what we are on this tier, which means we just need to go up to the next one. And I think we're already on one of the higher ones. So it just gets more expensive as we go. So we'll look at later in this year as part of the year of lad, which we'll talk about. Is this the best platform? Is it worth that expense? Is it worth looking at other options? Office furniture and storage, spend a little over $500. We have a lot of things that are getting sent to us that we need to um, kind of organize and keep track of. So hugs, knitted hearts, index cards, um, regular cards, greeting cards. We have all these things that we need to find space and ways to keep and making sure that they don't get damaged and safe. So as we move forward this year, we may need to work a little bit more on storage solutions, as well as making sure that I'm supported here in the office with what I need to ensure that we can get the letters out and that everything is organized and in place. Um, Other than that, the biggest other item is reserves. So in the past, we haven't budgeted to have additional money on hand. It's a good idea based on the growth that we do. So this year we're proposing $3,000 to put into reserves for a rainy day fund, or when we determine, hey, we want to expand and do this, but we need the estimates for 1,200, then we have the ability with the reserves to um, make a determination if that's possible. So we're going to look at that. So that brings us to the 2021 budget of $20,000, which is twice, basically, a little bit more than twice what we did this year. But I think based on the level of growth that we've grown almost 4 times as much throughout 2020, that's going to be needed. So now in order to support that, we needed to put a plan into place. How are we going to support being able to raise almost twice what we have in the past? And that brings us to, what's our strategy? How are we going to do this? Well, the first item is that we need to fundraise. We need to actually do proactive fundraising, not reactive. Like right now, it's like, oh, we're starting to get low on funds. Let me put out a Facebook fundraiser and get some funds that way. We need to actually proactively be reaching out to get that budget. And then what else can we do? So the first thing's going to be fundraise. And as we work on the year of lad, and we talk about that in a moment, fundraising committee is the very first thing. And that's what we just started this month, is let's get that committee stood up, get it established. Let's get everything on a foundation done so that they can go out and help me by going out and getting these funds, working with corporations on grants, working with individuals on donating. How should we do our Facebook donations? They're going to look at all that. So their initial goal is to be, let's raise that 20,000 that we need for this year so that we know that we can operate for this whole year without interruption. Once they're done with that, then let's start looking towards the future. And that's where we go into step 2. Let's refine our processes. Let's deep dive into everything that we do with Letters Against Depression and make sure we're doing it right. I need volunteers to come into this process with us, because that diversity of our voice is going to lead to a better program. It is no good if I sit here and I create the foundation and everything else with what we're doing and keep moving with my vision forward, because I'm not diverse. I like to think in a diverse way, but I need those diverse voices to look at that and say, well, instead of doing that, can't we do this? And having those ideas that we can then move forward and ensure that we're doing things the best. And we're going to identify these improvements that we can make and then submit those to the fundraising committee and say, hey, can we make this happen? And they can reach out, and maybe it's getting sponsorships or something like that. So, and then finally, expansion with a bigger base and of people, because we've been reaching out and doing our processes better and we have a bigger budget. How can we reach more people? Is it enacting more programs? Is it finding new ways to interact with people and engaging people? How do we keep the community engaged longer? So we'll be looking at those pieces too and saying, all right, how can we do this? How can we make sure that everything is the best that it can be? So the year of lad, basically, thank you, Kim, for the amazing suggestion of, let's take one facet of lad every month and let's work it. Let's make sure that everything is the best that it can be for that piece. So January, we're going to do the fundraising committee because truly everything that we want to do is going to be built off of having the money to do it. So let's get that fundraising committee set up and ensure that we can do everything that we need for that. February, we're going to work on social medias committee. And this is going to be, they're going to be engaging our audience. They're going to be finding new recipients and volunteers and working with our many different forms of social media. They'll be creating campaigns and awareness and just getting the message out there. March, April, and May, we'll be working on public relations, but focusing on a different pillar for each one. So public relations will, at least my thought right now is one committee, but it's going to be broken into three pillars. So you're going to have the volunteer pillar, and that's what March is look at everything on a volunteer from the moment you find us to signing up, welcome email to the portal. Are we doing everything that we can the best? Are there enhancements, things that we can do? And we're going to look at that for the entire month. And then April, let's look at recipients in that process. So we'll get the Public Relations Recipients Committee pillar set up. And same thing from when a recipient finds us to signing up, updating their profile. What can we do on that life cycle that's going to be the best way possible for recipients? Then we look at community relations, and that'll be the final pillar. And that's engaging the community to helping us and um, finding out what we can do, whether it's, can we create a volunteer program for your company? Can we do an event and work in tandem with? So June, we're going to look at the website and we're going to deep dive. So whether it's adding, deleting, modifying, what is it about the website? Do we need to redo it completely? Do we need a new company? Right now, I do it on my own through Squarespace. Maybe there's a different platform, or maybe we have the budget and we actually pay a webmaster to do it. We're going to deep dive completely and find out what can we do differently with the website. July, we're going to do the portal, the volunteer portal. So what would we like to do, just like the website, differently? Look at the entire life cycle of the portal. Do we need different tabs? Do we need to break out, sort different? Do we need to look at, can we add this feature? Look at everything from that volunteer portal perspective. August is our celebrations program. So this is what replaced the holiday card. So let's look at that. Let's look at the holidays we're offering, the level of engagement from people, how that's going. Let's look at how we celebrate, and do we add to the program? Do we modify it? Like, what would make it better? So we'll look at celebrations. September, let's look at our hugs program, our index cards, our crocheted hearts. Is there things that we could be doing differently? Are there places we can reach out to do more of? Do we find a way that we can get enough hearts that we send with every letter? Do we find different inserts that work, inserts that don't work? Do we put rules around what defines a hug or what we would want? So we'll look at that completely. Then we will go with October. As we keep going forward, I can't do alone all of the administration work, the mailing of the letters, the updating of the portal, the maintaining of the website, all that. Eventually we need to bring on other people to help, but it's a hard proposition. It's hard to do with our organization because we're all distant. We're not all in one location. If you think of most nonprofits, most charities, they work on a small community or a small area that people are right there, where we don't have that so much in this case. So for the month of October, we're going to be looking, does it make sense to purchase some sort of storefront or office building or someplace that people can go from this community here around me and help and volunteer? Whether it's for school hours or internships or seniors that want to come and can do, the different pieces that I do, but I need an actual location because right now the letters go to our PO box or our box that we have for mail, and they're here and I work them and get them out. There's no way to really meet up with someone to give them and then give them the stamps. And so it really needs to be a central location. So we'll look at that. What does that entail? Do we need insurance? Do we need, how much is it going to cost for rent? How much is it going to cost for electricity? And can we host events there that would offset? Can we get a grant that'll cover it? Things like that. Then we're going to look at an expansion in November of what programs can we expand to. So are there things that we can implement or do differently for programs? So, kind of think of like the celebrations program. We just added that in, although it kind of replaced the holiday cards. But are there different ways that we can add in new things that can send more hope and support that would be of a good asset to our organization? And then December, lastly, we're going to look at new technology expansion. So think in this case like applications, apps on phones. Is there different technology or ways that we can do what we do and help us be more connected? Obviously, we don't want to move our program to be emailed letters, but is there some sort of technology piece that we can use to make it even better? Adding in the portal was kind of one of those expansion things. So we'll look at different issues that we have, different things that we need to address, and work on it from there from a technology perspective in December. And that'll wrap up the year of LAD. That'll be 12 months of really deep diving. And by the end of it, we're going to come out a stronger organization. We're going to have refined and added processes and really looked at each of the pieces to make sure, does it make sense? Is there a better way to do it? Not cheaper, definitely not looking from a cost saving perspective, but better. Can we make things easier, faster, and better? And that's really going to be important as we move forward. We want to make sure that we are doing everything the best that we can as we grow, because it's going to help us grow responsibly. We're not going to grow too fast and not be able to support it, but we're also going to be able to grow better as we go. So I thank you all so much. We truly couldn't get through what we did in 2020 without amazing people like you. Without your help, your letters, your donations, your support. I mean, this isn't possible. When I started Letters Against Depression, I really thought this was my burden to hold. This was for me writing to kind of get through that. Maybe I can help a few people, and day in and day out, you all show that you believe in this mission and you believe in what we're doing, and you want to make a difference. And you want to be a light in someone's life, and I cannot thank you enough, because you buying into my mission and my goals and wanting to be that light uh, just is amazing to see. And so thank you. I cannot thank you all enough. If you have any questions, if you want to ask questions about this presentation or things we talked about, you have questions in general, always feel you can reach me through emailing robert@lettersagainst.org. You can also, if you're on our volunteer Facebook site, you can ask there, message me, friend me on there if you want to send a messenger. If you're on Discord with us, which is an amazing tool, you can ask there. Kind of think of it like a chat room, but it holds your chat, like it keeps it there so that if you ask a question, you don't have to jump in and see it. Like when I reply, you just come back 2 days later even, and it's still there, and you can see the history. And we have many boards and things that you're able to ask questions, offer suggestions. We can meet up in Discord, share screens. I can, talk over voice chat, things like that. So if you ever have any questions, you want to get in contact with me, please do. I love suggestions. We cannot make Letters Against Depression the best that it can be without diverse voices. So by all means, let me know any thoughts. Anything that you're even like, it works, but what if we did this? Maybe it's a little bit different. And maybe it's not something we can do, but maybe it's enough of a spark of an idea that moves us in a different direction of something else. So, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for a wonderful 2020, even though truly the year in itself sucked on a regular personal level. From a Letters Against Depression perspective, things were a resounding success. So thank you, and I look forward to an amazing 2021 with you as we go through the year in LAD. So thank you. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing year, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.